Minimalism has always been about finding beauty in simplicity, and clay cylinder pots are the perfect embodiment of that idea. Their clean lines and natural textures bring balance into any space, whether indoors or outdoors. Unlike overly decorated designs, the minimalist clay pot speaks softly, allowing the plant itself to take center stage. Making one is a calming process. The clay is shaped into a tall, smooth cylinder. Its edges refined, its body kept simple, left in natural terracotta. It radiates warmth and earthiness. Painted in matte white or muted gray, it blends seamlessly into modern interiors. Each version carries its own charm, unified by the language of minimalism. Less is more. On a desk, a single cactus in a white clay cylinder feels like a breath of focus. On a shelf, a row of terracotta pots holding herbs or succulents adds texture without clutter. Even outdoors, placed along a balcony or garden path, their simplicity allows greenery to shine brighter. For children, the act of shaping clay is a tactile joy, rolling, smoothing, and discovering how it transforms under their hands. For adults, the finished pots bring serenity to a room, an antidote to noise and excess. Every time you water the plant, the pot reminds you of patience, balance, and care. This DIY is more than decoration. It is about creating space, both physical and mental. A minimalist clay cylinder pot is not just a home for a plant. It is a reminder that beauty doesn't need to shout. It whispers in soft tones of terracotta and green, that elegance is found in restraint. And in that whisper, your home becomes calmer, cleaner, and more alive. There's a timeless charm in rustic terracotta pots, as if they carry the history of every garden they've touched. Their warm, earthy tones and weathered surfaces remind us of tradition, of gardens that have thrived for generations. Unlike polished modern designs, rustic terracotta embraces imperfection. Each crack, stain, or patina adding to its character. Making or styling one feels like stepping back to simpler times. The clay, once fired, carries a rough texture and deep orange-brown hue. When left outdoors, rain and sun shape it further, giving a natural aged look. Some even choose to rub soil, moss, or lime wash over the surface to encourage that antique finish. The result is a pot that feels alive, a piece of the earth returned to its roots. Planted with herbs like rosemary, thyme, or lavender, rustic terracotta pots become the soul of the garden. Their porous walls help the soil breathe, making them not only beautiful but also practical for plant health. Placed on stone steps, wooden benches, or lined along a pathway, they transform the space into something warm and inviting. Children may see them as little houses for plants, while adults recognize their quiet elegance. Even indoors, a rustic terracotta pot on a windowsill adds depth, carrying a sense of grounding that modern materials often lack. This DIY is more than craft. It is connection. It connects us to the land, to tradition, and to the rhythm of growth. Every rustic pot whispers stories of past gardens, reminding us that beauty lies in what is natural, raw, and enduring. And in their presence, your garden or home feels richer, not just in plants, but in soul. Some pots don't just hold plants. They hold stories, colors, and spirit. Mandala-painted clay pots are one of those creations, blending nature with art in a way that feels almost spiritual. Each stroke of the brush creates symmetry, balance, and beauty, turning an ordinary terracotta pot into a canvas of life. It begins with paint and patience. The pot, once plain and earthy, is covered in a base color, deep blue for calm, bright turquoise for vibrancy, or even black for elegance. Then, with a steady hand, circles and dots expand outward, weaving into intricate mandala patterns. Each layer is a rhythm, a meditation, a celebration of detail. No two designs are ever alike, each carrying the unique expression of its maker. When the design is complete, the pot feels transformed. A simple succulent planted inside looks like it belongs to a sacred space. Flowers bloom brighter against the colorful background, as if encouraged by the art surrounding them. Placed indoors, these pots become more than decor. They radiate warmth and personality. On balconies or patios, they add boho chic energy, catching the eye and starting conversations. Children often marvel at the patterns, tracing the dots with their fingers, while adults admire the balance and symmetry that mandalas bring. The joy of this DIY lies not only in the result, but in the process. Painting mandalas slows you down, guiding your breath and your focus. It's as much an act of mindfulness as it is of creativity. In every pot, there is harmony between clay and color, between nature and art, between patience and expression. And as you look at them, you realize these pots are not just vessels for plants, but vessels for peace, carrying a little universe of beauty wherever they stand. Sometimes beauty speaks softly. Minimalist matte clay pots capture this truth, offering elegance not through detail but through simplicity. Their surfaces, painted in muted tones like white, gray, or black, feel calm to the touch, smooth, understated, and timeless. The process begins with restraint. No bold colors, no intricate patterns, just a pot painted in matte finish. It's silence speaking louder than decoration. Into the simplicity, you plant something green, a cactus, a snake plant, a fern. Against a soft background, the leaves stand out, their vibrance magnified by contrast. The pot does not compete with the plant. It frames it, celebrates it. Placed in a living room, the pot blends seamlessly with modern interiors. On a desk, it brings clarity and focus, as the absence of noise in its design clears the space around it. Children may pass it by without notice, but adults feel its quiet strength, the way it calms a corner without asking for attention. The beauty of these pots is versatility. One stands alone, dignified. A row of them together becomes a statement of harmony, each color balancing the next, whether holding a tall indoor plant or a tiny succulent. The effect is the same, clean, elegant, and soothing. Making one is simple, yet the result feels intentional, almost luxurious. It is proof that DIY does not always have to be bold. It can be subtle, refined, and still transformative. And as you glance at the matte clay pot, sitting quietly in its place, you realize that elegance isn't about excess. It's about balance, about allowing space for the plant to shine, for the room to breathe, and for simplicity itself to be beautiful. There is something timeless about the feel of clay under your fingers, rough, raw, and real. Textured clay pots celebrate this very essence, bringing the spirit of handmade craft into your home or garden. Unlike smooth and polished designs, these pots embrace imperfection. Every groove, every carved line, carries a touch of the hand that shaped it. The process is simple, yet deeply personal. While the clay is still soft, you etch patterns with simple tools, a stick, a comb, even your fingertips. Circles, stripes, or wavy lines appear, giving the pot a rustic identity. When it dries and is painted in earthy tones, terracotta orange, deep brown, or soft beige, the textures catch the light, casting shadows that make the design come alive. Placed in a garden, a textured pot feels at home, blending naturally with soil, stone, and greenery. On a balcony or patio, it becomes a rustic accent, reminding you of pottery traditions passed down through generations. Children love running their fingers across the grooves, feeling the difference between smooth leaves and rough clay. Adults admire its authenticity, the sense that this pot is not just an object, but a piece of handmade art. What makes textured pots special is that no two are ever the same. Each one tells a different story, shaped by unique hands and moods. Some look ancient, as though unearthed from history. Others feel modern, combining minimal design with organic texture. This DIY is more than making a planter. It is about honoring tradition, embracing imperfection, and letting the material speak for itself. In every carved line and every rustic groove, the pot whispers of patience, craft, and the enduring beauty of handmade work. There is a certain joy in light catching on glossy surfaces, making colors glow brighter than they seem. Glazed clay pots bring that joy into our living spaces. With their smooth finish and radiant shine, they transform ordinary planters into pieces of art that seem almost alive with color. The process begins with clay shaped into simple pots. Once dried, they are coated with glaze, sometimes a single hue, sometimes a blend of many. When fired, the glaze melts into a glass-like skin, turning matte clay into a mirror of light. The result is mesmerizing. Deep turquoise that feels like the ocean, fiery red that carries warmth, or soft pastel glazes that whisper calm. Placed on a balcony, a glazed pot sparkles in the sun, its shine drawing attention even before the plant inside does. Indoors, the glossy finish reflects light from windows or lamps, giving the room a brighter, livelier atmosphere. Children are often drawn to the colors, while adults admire the craftsmanship and elegance that glazing adds. What makes glazed pots so special is the unpredictability of the finish. No two pieces are ever the same. Each one has subtle streaks, drips, or patterns formed during firing. This uniqueness makes every pot feel like a treasure, a one-of-a-kind companion for the plants it holds. Beyond their beauty, glazed pots are practical too. The finish makes them easier to clean and more resistant to moisture, allowing them to last longer indoors or outdoors. Every time you glance at a glazed clay pot, its glossy surface catches your eye, reminding you that beauty doesn't always have to be complex. Sometimes, it's simply about color, shine, and the way light plays with both. Every carved line tells a story. Hand-carved clay pots carry the mark of patience, precision, and creativity, turning ordinary vessels into works of art. Unlike painted designs, carving brings depth and texture, inviting not just the eyes but also the hands to explore. The process begins after shaping the clay. While it is still soft, tools are pressed and guided across the surface. Patterns emerge, spirals that echo ancient traditions, floral motifs that celebrate nature, or geometric lines that speak of order and symmetry. When the pot dries and is fired, these designs become permanent, etched forever into the surface, a memory of the maker's hand. Placed in a garden, a carved pot feels timeless, like something unearthed from history. On a windowsill, it becomes an art piece, blending function with beauty. Children run their fingers over grooves, fascinated by the raised and recessed textures. Adults pause, admiring how detail can turn simplicity into elegance. Each pot is unique. No carving is ever repeated exactly, making every piece one of a kind. Some are left in natural terracotta for an earthy charm, while others are whitewashed or painted lightly to highlight the depth of the patterns. These pots remind us an important truth. Art does not always need canvas or paper. It can live in everyday objects. When a plant grows from within, the contrast of living green against the textured clay feels harmonious, as though both were made for each other. In every curve of a leaf etched into clay, in every swirl carved by hand, the pot whispers a story of time, touch, and care. It is more than a planter. It is art shaped by patience, holding not just plants but a piece of the maker's soul. Colors have a way of shifting moods, and ombre clay pots capture that magic in their gentle transitions. With a smooth blend from one shade into another, these pots feel like sunsets, ocean waves, or dawn skies captured in clay. They are simple to make, yet their beauty feels refined, almost artistic. The process begins with paint and a soft brush. Starting at the top, you apply one color, perhaps white, pastel pink, or pale yellow. Then, with careful strokes, you introduce another hue at the bottom, blending the two where they meet. Slowly, the border disappears, and what remains is a smooth gradient that feels natural, as though the pot itself is glowing with light. Placed indoors, an ombre pot brightens the space with subtle elegance. Outdoors, it glows in the sunlight, its colors shifting as the day changes. A pink to white gradient pot holding a succulent feels calm and romantic. A blue to green pot with a fern whispers freshness, like a breeze on a summer morning. Children love the vibrant colors, often comparing them to rainbows or cotton candy skies. Adults appreciate the sophistication, the way ombre turns a simple pot into a design element that can match any decor style, modern, boho, or rustic. What makes ombre pots so special is their versatility. You can experiment endlessly with color combinations. Fiery oranges blending into yellows, soft purples melting into blues, or even dramatic blacks fading into grays. Each gradient carries its own mood, its own personality. This DIY is more than decoration. It's a reminder of transitions. Just as the sky changes from dawn to dusk, these pots embody movement and flow. And in their colors, they whisper that beauty often lies not in endings or beginnings, but in the space between. Sometimes beauty is built from fragments. Mosaic clay pots remind us that even broken pieces can create something whole and breathtaking. With tiny tiles, glass, or even shards of broken ceramics, these pots transform into canvases of color and pattern. Each one is unique as a painting, The process begins with a plain clay pot. Small pieces of tile, glass, or mirror are carefully arranged on its surface. Geometric shapes create a modern look, while floral arrangements bring a softer, more organic charm. The gaps between the pieces are filled with grout, sealing the fragments together into a permanent artwork. As the pot dries, light catches on the shiny surfaces, making the design shimmer with life. Placed in a garden, a mosaic pot becomes a focal point, standing out like jewelry among greenery. On a balcony or patio, it adds a splash of artistic energy, inviting eyes to linger on its details. Children marvel at the colorful patterns, while adults appreciate the craftsmanship and patience it takes to bring fragments together. What makes these pots special is their story. Each piece of tile or glass once had another purpose, perhaps part of a plate, a cup, or a window. Now, combined in new ways, they form something beautiful again. The pot becomes not just a planter, but a reminder that renewal is always possible. With every glance, you see more than just a plant container. You see a mosaic of time, care, and imagination. And in its shimmering patterns, the pot whispers a lesson. Beauty doesn't always come from perfection. It comes from the courage to take broken pieces and reassemble them into something whole, something radiant, something that holds life once more. Not every garden grows across the ground. Sometimes it grows in the air. Clay hanging pots bring life upward, turning empty walls, balconies, and ceilings into green sanctuaries. Their charm lies in their simplicity. A strong rope, a sturdy pot, and a plant that loves to spill and trail gracefully down. The making is straightforward, but full of heart. A plain clay pot, left natural or painted in soft colors, is secured with ropes, macrame knots for elegance, or simple jute twine for rustic charm. Suspended from a ceiling hook or a balcony beam, the pot finds its place in the air, ready to cradle greenery. Placed indoors, a clay hanging pot softens corners, letting vines fall gently like curtains of green. Outdoors on a balcony or patio, they sway with the breeze, bringing movement and freshness to the space. Children often marvel at the way plants dangle from above, while adults appreciate how these pots save space yet add style. The plants chosen make each pot unique. A trailing pothose creates rivers of green. A flowering plant adds bursts of color. Succulents in smaller pots offer subtle charm. Arranged in rows or clusters, they form a vertical garden, artful, alive, and endlessly inspiring. These pots are more than decor. They are lessons in perspective. They show us that gardens don't always belong on the ground. They can climb, hang, and even float in air. They prove that small spaces can bloom, that creativity grows when we look upward. Every sway of a clay hanging pot whispers a truth. Life is not limited to soil beneath our feet. With imagination, beauty can grow in the air, turning even the smallest corners into sanctuaries of green and calm. Some pots do more than hold plants. They hold culture, history, and tradition. Engraved clay pots carry the soul of craftsmanship, where every line and motif tells a story passed down through generations. Unlike painted designs that sit on the surface, engravings cut deeper, becoming a permanent memory etched into clay. The process begins with a pot fresh from the wheel, still soft enough to shape. With simple tools, the maker etches patterns into the surface, delicate flowers, flowing vines, or bold tribal symbols. Each mark carries intention, whether inspired by nature, cultural heritage, or personal imagination. Once fired, the engravings remain forever, unchanging and timeless. Placed in a home or garden, these pots feel alive with meaning. A floral motif connects the pot to the earth, echoing the plant it holds. Tribal patterns bring strength and energy, reminding us of ancient traditions that honor both art and utility. Children are often drawn to the carvings, tracing the grooves with their fingertips, while adults admire the way detail transforms something humble into something profound. Engraved pots also speak of patience. They remind us that beauty is not always quick or loud. It can be slow, thoughtful, and enduring. Each design, though simple, carries a depth of time and touch, making every pot one of a kind. This DIY is more than craft. It is storytelling through clay. By engraving, you are not only decorating a surface, but also preserving a language of shapes and lines that speaks without words. And as light falls across the pot, shadows play within the carvings, bringing the design to life. In those shadows lies a whisper. Beauty lasts when it is etched with care, and tradition continues when hands choose to create. Sometimes elegance comes from contrast. Two-tone clay pots show us how opposites can work together in harmony, turning a simple planter into a modern design piece. By dividing the surface into two sections of color, each pot feels fresh, stylish, and surprisingly versatile. The process is simple, yet creative. Start with a plain clay pot, then choose two colors that speak to each other. Perhaps white and terracotta for natural simplicity, black and gold for bold luxury, or pastel pink and gray for a soft modern touch. A strip of tape marks the boundary, creating a clean, sharp division. Once painted, the pot looks instantly transformed, minimal yet striking. Placed in a living room, a two-tone pot adds sophistication without overwhelming the space. On a balcony, it plays with light and color, making plants look even more vibrant against the contrast. Children enjoy the playful combinations, while adults appreciate the clean lines and balance of the design. What makes two-tone pots so special is their flexibility. They can be chic or rustic, bold or subtle, depending on the chosen colors. A whole set in matching tones creates a cohesive look, while varied combinations make a display full of energy and character. These pots remind us that beauty doesn't always come from complexity. Sometimes it's the simplest ideas, like dividing a surface into two, that carry the strongest impact. They embody balance, a visual reminder that opposites don't clash, they complete each other. And as your plants grow within them, the pots whisper that contrast, when embraced, creates not conflict but beauty. Sometimes, the smallest detail changes everything. Adding rope accents to clay pots turns them from simple planters into rustic treasures, carrying a warmth that feels both natural and handmade. Rope and clay together tell a story of earth and fiber, two humble materials blending in harmony. The process begins with a plain pot and a coil of rope. Wrapping the rope around the base creates a strong, earthy anchor. Binding it near the rim adds a touch of coastal charm, like something you find in a seaside cottage. A dab of glue keeps it secure, while knots and bows add personality. The combination of textures, the smooth clay and the rough rope, creates a design that feels organic, as though shaped by nature itself. Placed indoors, a rope-accented pot softens modern spaces, bringing in a rustic, earthy energy. On balconies or patios, it feels coastal, reminding you of breezes over the ocean, salt in the air, and the calm rhythm of waves. Children may touch the rope with curiosity, while adults admire how such a small addition makes a big difference. The beauty of this DIY lies in its versatility. Some pots are wrapped entirely in rope for a farmhouse look. Others use just a strip, paired with white paint, for a modern coastal vibe. You can experiment endlessly, adjusting how much rope to use depending on the mood you want to create. These pots are more than decoration. They are bridges between textures, between simplicity and detail. They remind us that creativity doesn't always mean starting from scratch. Sometimes, it's about adding a touch that transforms. And as you look at them, with plants spilling softly over their rims, the pots whisper. Beauty lives in details, and even the simplest accents can tie everything together. Art doesn't always have to be complicated. Sometimes, it's as simple as a stencil pressed against clay. Stencil clay pots are proof of this, allowing anyone, even those new to painting, to create stunning designs with ease. With every shade pressed and painted, the pot begins to tell a story in clean, crisp patterns. The process starts with choosing a base color. A pot painted white becomes a perfect canvas for black leaves. A gray pot glows with golden stencil florals. Even natural terracotta pairs beautifully with bold geometric prints. A stencil is held firmly against the surface. Paint is applied carefully, and when the stencil is lifted, the design reveals itself, perfect, sharp, and full of character. Placed indoors, stencil pots bring personality to shelves, desks, and windowsills. Outdoors, they stand out in gardens and balconies, their patterns catching the eye like little works of art. Children delight in seeing simple shapes appear as if by magic, while adults admire the balance of precision and creativity. What makes stencil pots so special is the endless variety. Leaves, flowers, spirals, stars. Each design changes the mood entirely. A set of stencil pots with matching motifs can unify a space, while a mix of designs brings playful diversity. No two arrangements feel the same, even when made with the same tools. This DIY reminds us that creativity doesn't always mean freehand perfection. Sometimes, it means using simple tools to bring beauty to life. Stencil pots are approachable yet elegant, making them perfect for beginners and seasoned crafters alike. And as the patterns catch the sunlight, the pots whisper. Beauty can be guided, shaped, and shared. And with just a stencil, even the simplest pot can bloom into something extraordinary. Clay by itself is earthy and timeless, but when wrapped with fabric, it takes on a whole new personality, soft, cozy, and unique. Fabric-wrapped clay pots bring warmth to any space, combining texture and color in ways that paint alone cannot. They are perfect for those who love adding a personal, handmade touch to their decor. The process is simple but delightful. Start with a clean clay pot. Cut a piece of fabric, burlap for rustic charm, floral cotton for vibrance, or denim for a modern twist. Wrap it snugly around the pot, securing it with glue. To finish, add accents. A ribbon tied in a bow, lace for elegance, or button for playful detail. Suddenly, the pot feels less like a container and more like a dressed-up character, ready to brighten your space. Placed indoors, fabric-wrapped pots soften corners and shelves, bringing a sense of comfort. On balconies or patios, they add bursts of personality, especially when made in sets with different fabrics. Children smile at the fun patterns, while adults admire how the combination of clay and cloth create a decor piece that is both stylish and sustainable. The charm of this DIY lies in experimentation. You can swap fabrics with the seasons, light florals for spring, warm plaid for winter, or soft linen for summer. Each fabric changes the mood, keeping your home decor fresh and lively without replacing the pot itself. These pots remind us that creativity often lies in layering, taking two simple materials and blending them into something new. They show how even the smallest details, like a ribbon or a scrap of cloth, can transform the ordinary into something special. And as plants grow from within, the pots whisper. Beauty is not only in what we make, but also in how we dress it, with warmth, care, and imagination. Sometimes the smallest creations hold the most charm. Miniature clay pots, with their delicate size and handmade feel, bring joy in a way that is subtle yet deeply heartwarming. Each pot may be tiny, but it carries the same earthiness and tradition as its larger counterparts. Only now, it feels almost like a treasure you can hold in the palm of your hand. The making of mini pots is playful and rewarding. Shaped by hand or wheel, they dry into perfect little vessels waiting to cradle life. Some are left raw and rustic, while others are painted in pastel shades or decorated with dots and stripes. The size allows freedom. You can create a dozen different looks in a single afternoon, each unique yet part of a charming collection. Placed on shelves, desks, or windowsills, these tiny pots brighten spaces without demanding attention. A row of them with succulents looks like a miniature garden. On a desk, they keep you company as you work, offering a little reminder of calm and creativity. Children love them for their dollhouse-like appeal, while adults appreciate their elegance in small doses. Their beauty lies not only in their looks, but in their versatility. They make thoughtful gifts, wedding favors, or small tokens of care. Even without plants, they can be used to hold beads, pins, or tiny keepsakes, adding charm to the everyday. Miniature clay pots remind us that size does not define value. They show that even the smallest spaces can bloom, that joy can come in tiny vessels, and that creativity is often best expressed in details. And as you look at them lined up in sunlight, the pots whisper, small things carry big beauty, if only you take the time to see. There's something captivating about the way metallic tones catch the light. When paired with the earthy texture of clay, the result is a design that feels both grounded and luxurious. Clay pots with metallic accents bring modern elegance into the world of handmade crafts, proving that rustic and refined can coexist beautifully. The process begins with simplicity. A plain pot becomes a canvas, painted in soft matte colors, black, white, or terracotta. Then metallic paint is added as an accent, a band around the rim, a stripe across the middle, or delicate geometric shapes. Gold adds warmth and opulence. Silver brings sleek sophistication, and copper glows with rustic modern charm. The balance of matte and metallic creates harmony, like night meeting dawn. Placed indoors, these pots shine as statement pieces. On desk shelves or coffee tables, they draw the eye instantly without overpowering the space. Outdoors on patios or balconies, they shimmer softly in sunlight, adding a touch of glamour to greenery. Children are intrigued by their glow, while adults admire their subtle luxury. What makes metallic accented pots so versatile is their ability to suit different styles. A matte black pot with gold trim feels modern and bold. A white pot with silver patterns whispers elegance and calm. A terracotta pot brush with bronze accents brings warmth, perfect for rustic homes. These pots are not just decor. They're reminders that beauty often lies in contrast. Earth and metal, matte and shine, simple and striking. Each one celebrates balance and creativity, turning an everyday object into art. And as the sunlight glimmers across the metallic lines, the pots seem to whisper, elegance doesn't have to be extravagant. Sometimes, it's just a touch of shine that makes the world glow brighter. Sometimes, nature itself becomes the artist. Clay pots with leaf and flower impressions capture the delicate beauty of the outdoors, preserving patterns that feel timeless and organic. With each press of a fern or flower into the soft clay, the pot becomes more than a vessel. It becomes a canvas holding the memory of the natural world. The process begins when the clay is still soft and moldable. A fresh leaf is laid gently on its surface, veins pressing fine details into the clay. A flower petal leaves behind soft, curved shapes, while blades of grass create delicate lines. When the clay dries and is fired, these impressions remain forever, etched into the pot like fossils of living beauty. Some are left raw for an earthy look, while others are brushed with whitewash or soft colors to highlight the patterns. Placed indoors, a pot with leaf impressions feels like a little piece of the forest brought into the home. On balconies and in gardens, they blend effortlessly with greenery, as if the plants inside are growing from their own reflections. Children marvel at the textures, running their fingers along the veins, while adults admire the artistry and subtle elegance. What makes these pots special is their intimacy with nature. Each impression is unique, depending on the leaf or flower chosen. A fern may bring bold, sweeping lines, while a small daisy adds delicate charm. Together, they create a collection that feels alive even before the plants are placed inside. These pots remind us that creativity often begins by observing. They teach that art doesn't always come from invention. It can come from paying attention to what nature already offers. And as you look at the impressions, you realize beauty is all around us, waiting to be pressed gently into memory. Some pots do more than hold plants. They hold words, doodles, and imagination. Clay pots with chalkboard paint invite creativity into everyday gardening, turning each planter into a customizable canvas. With a few strokes of chalk, you can name your herbs, draw patterns, or leave little notes of inspiration right on the pot. The process begins with a simple coat of matte black chalkboard paint, applied evenly across the surface, or just as a band near the middle. It transforms the clay into a writable surface. Once dry, the pot is ready for chalk. Write basil for clarity, sketch leaves for charm, or let children add playful doodles that change with the seasons. If you make a mistake, it wipes clean, ready to be written again. Placed in the kitchen, these pots feel both stylish and practical. Herbs like rosemary, parsley, and mint grow neatly in label containers, making cooking easier and more fun. On balconies or patios, they add a modern twist, where visitors can admire not only the plants, but also the messages you've written. Children especially love the interactive element, drawing faces or symbols that bring personality to each pot. What makes chalkboard painted pots so unique is their flexibility. Today, they carry plant names. Tomorrow, they may hold motivational quotes, birthday greetings, or seasonal art. They are never finished, always waiting for the next layer of creativity. These pots are more than just DIY decor, they are living canvases. They remind us that gardening is not only about growth, but also about play, personalization, and joy. And as you write on them, erase and write again, the pots whisper, life is always a draft, and beauty lies in the freedom to keep rewriting. Clay has always carried warmth, but when paired with candlelight, it becomes something magical. Clay pot candle holders transform simple planters into glowing lanterns, turning ordinary evenings into cozy, unforgettable moments. Their earthy presence combined with flickering flames brings both comfort and beauty, perfect for indoors or out in the garden. The process is simple yet enchanting. A clay pot left natural or painted in soft tones becomes the base. Some are inverted with a candle placed on top. Others are hollowed or cut to let light shine through patterns. When a candle is lit, the glow reflects off the clay, soft and golden, radiating warmth into the space around it. Placed indoors, these holders bring intimacy to dining tables or quiet corners, creating an atmosphere of peace. Outdoors in a garden or balcony, they come alive as twilight falls, their flames swaying gently with the evening breeze. Children watch the flickering light in wonder, while adults feel the calm of moments slowed down, the world softened by a gentle glow. What makes clay candle holders so special is their versatility. A rustic terracotta holder feels earthy and traditional. A painted white lantern style adds elegance. A cluster of small pots with tea lights creates a festival-like ambience. Each one tells a different story, but all carry the same warmth of handmade charm. These creations remind us that light does not only come from bulbs and electricity. It can come from the humblest of materials, shaped with care. In the union of clay and flame, there is harmony. Earth and fire, form and glow, tradition and simplicity. And as the candlelight flickers within, the pot whispers. Beauty shines brightest in the quiet moments, where craft meets warmth and simplicity becomes wonder.